Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the annual general meeting of HUC for 2023. Slight apologies from the outset. Unfortunately, our chair, Sarah Pickup's not been able to dial in. We're having a few communication problems with that. So we've agreed that I'm more than happy to stand in currently as a deputy. We're hopefully should join later on in the session. But I really do want to thank you all for finding time this afternoon for us to give you an update on what's been happening in HUC over the last year. It's been a very exciting, somewhat challenging year in many respects, but actually we've done really, really well, and I think you'll see that coming through the slides. So in terms of housekeeping, we do need you to, obviously, we've put in the members area the recording of the last AGM, the accountability report, we will have the accounts to be signed off, and the minutes of the last years. We do need that to be properly approved. So if that could take place now. Jamie, just to confirm, that's now ready to be voted on, is that correct?
Yes, in terms of the recording of last year, yeah, that will come after the agenda.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's
can
good.
Vote on it then.
Right, okay. So the agenda that we're going to take you through is that actually instead of Sarah, David will give us an update on the journey over the last year. He'll touch on the key developments that have gone through in 2020-2023. I will give you an update on finances as chair of the Finance, Investment and Audit Committee. Obviously, we will discuss the approval of our auditors. Jamie very kindly will give us an update in terms of governance and what we've been doing, and then we will go back to David and to talk about 2024. I would stress and really urge you to provide any questions that you have, and you can do that through directly through the system, basically. And obviously we will be recording this to make sure that we've got an accurate record of the meeting. So I hope that's okay with everybody. David, can I pass that over to you then in terms of the history and services? And first off, do you accept the recording of last year's annual meeting as accurate? If you'd like to vote, that would be good. I think the votes are now beginning to come in. Thank you very much indeed. Please keep voting. Excellent. Well, thank you very much indeed, everybody, for voting. As you can see, that's a clear 100% yes, accepting the recording of the meeting. And once again, thank you for that. So, David, can I pass it over to you now to take us through the history and overall backdrop to what's been happening in HUC over the last year?
Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and apologies in advance. This element is unrehearsed. It wasn't going to be my section, as Nigel pointed out, but I'll give it my best shot. So as you can see, our journey has continued, and this year has been unique, really, for the organisation. First time of our merger with another organisation, and the expansion into the southwest, which we'll touch on as we move through. So a really unique year, and some unique challenges, but also opportunities, and has certainly moved the organisation forward in lots of ways. So for those of you who have not been to an AGM before, or haven't seen some of our history, so to speak, you can see that we started off in the sort of bottom left-hand corner in 2007 as Hearts Urgent Care, as formed as we still are, as a community benefit society. And you can see our rapid progress, really, through the Hertfordshire-wide out-of-hours service, and then the first county-wide 111 service in 2012, moving into Cambridge and Peterborough in 2013, and then that rapid expansion sort of through 2016-17 with full IUC services, expanding to Bedfordshire and Luton, and also diversification into having an urgent treatment centre and a planned care GMS practice in Luton, and then continued going forward. We all know what happened in 2020, and where, you know, historical challenges there, but absolutely amazing response from every single person in the organisation to get through those challenges that nobody'd ever come across, and are clearly coming out of the woodwork in the current COVID inquiry. And then moving past there, some really good innovative work, despite still being in a pandemic, about the virtual waiting room and the palliative care hub, both of which won Health Service Journal Awards, which we're extremely proud about. And then whilst we touch on the southwest, we also did successfully mobilise a new integrated urgent care hub in St Albans, which has gone from success to success. And we also successfully became the partner with Kerno Health Community Interest Company to deliver their 111 service as a bolt-on to our existing portfolios. But really, the 2022 was the merger with Devon Doctors as I guess more of an acquisition than a merger, and for that organisation and their contracts to become part of Hook. So we haven't got a map on this slide, but certainly our population and geographical spread is that, I guess, for the first time we've moved from being a regional provider to a sort of truly national provider, and it's all credit to everybody that contributes to that on a daily basis, whether they're a frontline clinician, whether they're a member of the operational delivery team, a health advisor in the 111, or the really important and often unsung heroes that sort of sit behind the scenes and make sure everybody gets paid, or that they're the governance is as strong as it possibly can be. So I guess a big thank you to everybody who's contributed towards the success of the organisation. And hopefully that simple slide just shows you how far we've come from our humble beginnings, but also that we've not forgotten what we're here for, which is, you know, put the patient at the start and the heart of everything that we do, and that we've continued to remain as a not-for-profit organisation that really is focused on being an asset to the local health economy. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's just a pictorial example of some of the things that we've done, and we've got new vehicles. We've got the opening of a new contact centre. We've got the staff awards, which have been going from strength to strength and really popular. You name it, we seem to have done it this year. And again, it's all brilliant culture that enables that to happen, as well as all these things are done on top of the day job. So again, another credit to everybody that we managed to do so many things. So on to the next slide, please. So new service and partnerships. So for those of you who aren't aware of the sort of details of the merger with Devon Doctors, that was an organisation that was constituted fairly similar to ourselves, a smaller organisation that was really anchored in Devon and Somerset. But with that brought a number of subsidiaries. So Access Dental is a company that provides dental triage services, but also face-to-face dental treatment services, that operates across the southwest, and has been a real asset to those local health economies. We've also got Clock Tower Surgery, which is again a registered list practice, but it specialises in patients who are homeless and have got challenges that arise from that homelessness aspects of their lives. So it's a real speciality practice, and a great team that operate that on a day-to-day basis. So they're all subsidiaries. Sadly, Devon Doctors didn't win the contract for the Devon IUC service, but we did inherit the contract for the Somerset IUC service, which is slightly smaller. And one of the big things that we did in parallel to the sort of merger and the mobilisation of Kerno Health is that we brought back the 111 service, which was subcontracted out to another organisation, and we brought that back in-house, so that in effect it mirrors the same portfolio that we've got across the east of England, in that we provide the 111, the out of hours and the clinical assessment components, which has really strengthened that service. So that's a real snapshot of what we do in the southwest, and hopefully, as you'll see when we get to my second part about looking forward, that we're really looking to strengthen and develop our southwest footprint. And mentioned earlier on about the St Albans Integrated Urgent Care Hub. That was an openly procured service which the commercial team worked really hard on, and then to the operations and clinical directors to mobilise that. And I think it's safe to say it's been a real asset to the West Hertfordshire health economy, and has helped both general practice and the acute colleagues with some of the pressures that we're starting to see, sadly, again as we get into winter. So again, big thank you to everybody who made that happen. Next slide, please. Just some about the innovation. So these are all things that we did, I guess, on top of the business as usual elements, and I won't go through them all line by line, but you can see there's quite a few services that we stood up at the last minute and very short notice to support lots of sort of repatriation, refugee support coming into the country, which again supported general practice, aimed to keep the pressure off acute hospitals for patients who obviously for obvious reasons were coming into the country with unknown health challenges. So a massive thank you to operational and clinical teams who got those off the ground. Some of those went from being asked to delivered in less than 24 hours. So massive dedication and just energy levels to do that. So again, that whole culture of going the extra mile really evident in those aspects. One of the things as we strive towards moving further towards really strong and established governance is about our ability to deal with emergencies, business continuity, and our resilience of the organisation. We've certainly had a few challenges over the last few years where we've needed support, but for the first time we've been ranked as substantially compliant. So in fact we've gone through massive scrutiny audits about our standards and all the processes that sit behind that, and we're now very much so where we need to be and should be to support that going forward. So a big thank to Jamie and all the operational and clinical components of the organisation that helped bring that together. It's been wildly welcomed by the wider system, so all credit due to there. And then just want to highlight about section 11, which for those who don't know is about children's safeguarding mandatory standards that we need to comply with, and we've complied with that for as long as we've needed to, but for the first time we've sort of really excelled in there with lots of positive comments back about areas of really good practice, and again a compliant organisation. So again, all credit to Savanthy and the clinical team have really worked hard on that to showcase what we can do about safeguarding and how that's sort of developed and been promoted through the organisation. So just a snapshot of some of the things that we've been working on top of delivering the sort of core services that we have done. Next slide, please. Okay, just some achievements. Again, we'll go through them line by line, but we successfully managed to navigate the challenges of CQC inspection for Cheshunt MIU, and that was rated overall good, as you can see there. And then we've really pushed to try and support colleagues across our workforce with recognising their achievements. So the Hook Heroes, the staff awards, and the Heroes Hub has been developed, really trying to push with that sort of improving communication with the team brief. And only yesterday we were doing chief exec sort of town hall sessions, so people could come along and make suggestions, or where they think we were doing well or where we needed to improve. So really positive meetings. They're becoming a real good source of information and communication. Linked to that, we've employed the services of the Guardian service. So that's a completely independent freedom to speak up service. So anybody with any concerns about any aspect of what we do, then they've got the ability 24/7 to be able to speak to somebody who's completely independent, to talk through the challenges, advice on what the next steps might look like, and hopefully a path towards resolving those concerns. And just for further information, they report directly into our board. So I meet with them on a regular basis, but they come, I think, twice a year to our board meeting to actually update the entire board about where we are with our transparency and compliance, if you like, and progress in doing that. So a real sort of movement towards that openness, transparency, recognising the achievements of colleagues, and really driving that communication channels, because we're now a national organisation, so it's even more important to try and bring everybody together. And certainly as we strive to become one organisation rather than two organisations that have been sort of shunted together, the intention was always that it would be one organisation and one culture. So we've made some progress there, and more to do as we move forward. And part of that has obviously been trying to bring the websites together and our social media presence, so that again there's consistency and it looks like we are one organisation, and then work behind the scenes to make sure that we definitely are. So big thanks to the comms team, because that was a big piece of work to deliver that in the timescales and budget that we had available for that. Next slide, please. Okay, so looking forward, and this is always difficult with AGMs, because a lot of these things have sort of happened because in effect we're looking at the financial year 22-23, and obviously we're nearly at the end of 2023. So this is, I guess, showing that we haven't stood still at all. So lots of work to support our colleagues in the armed forces, whether they're still serving or whether they're veterans. So we're now members of the and signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant. Mentioned earlier about the Bedford contact centre move, so massive achievement to move that in the timescales that we did. And for everybody who's seen it, it's absolutely first class. And for those that haven't, then I'm sure when you do get a chance, the opportunity to see it, you will agree that it's been a massive step forward for the organisation. It really supports some of the things I'll talk about later on, about where our sort of future ambitions are, and permanent ambitions for the future. So that's a real big step in the right direction. Some technology innovations there. So the first of its kind is a web chat channel to enable patients who have got dental symptoms to be able to talk with one of our dental nurses over a chat functionality, rather than it being a telephone or a video call. And then very recently we've started to send text messages to patients who have got booked appointments in the out of hours service, so that helps with punctuality of turning up, efficiencies of those services, and that we maximise the sort of clinical capacity that we're able to provide. And then the last one, which is I guess a sneak preview, because it's a draft report that the Hertfordshire and West Essex IUC service, so all three components, the CAS, the 111 and the out of hours service, were recently inspected by the Care Quality Commission, and the draft report that's been sent to us for factual accuracy has rated all 5 domains as good. So massive success, and a massive example of teamwork, and just really highlighting what we're able to achieve. And there was obviously it's not published yet, but would urge everybody to read that, because there's loads of examples of what we all know is the sort of DNA of Hook, of that camaraderie culture, that the patient comes first, living by the organisation's values, etc., etc. So that was a huge piece of work to deliver within 6 weeks, and thankfully and rightly so, we've seen that we've been rated as good. So that's unofficial. It will be hopefully coming out formally in the not too distant future, but a big thanks to everybody who drove that forward. It was definitely an organisational wide piece of work. So we'll end on a high there, and I think that's the end of the looking back, Nigel. Oh, sorry, it isn't. I do apologise. So just some bullet points there on challenges. I'm sure this will be obvious to everybody, but merging 2 organisations is never easy. So bringing together the management structures and how we recruit and all the processes has always was going to be a challenge, and that's one of the things that I've been working on tirelessly across the organisation throughout the last 12 months and beyond. For those of you who are within the organisation as members, then remember August 22, for all the wrong reasons, but that's when our main patient management system was subjected to a cyber attack and was unavailable for the entire month of August, and some elements even longer than that. But again, that DNA of going over and above, patient comes first, etc., etc., that we rallied round, and amazed myself. I didn't think we'd be able to manage without a patient management system for so long, and covering a bank holiday. But yet again, everybody pulled out the stops, and we successfully navigated our way through there. And lots and lots of learning going forward, which will make us a better and stronger organisation going forward. Strep A, just when we thought we were safe, that COVID was sort of taking more of a back seat, then almost this time last year, Strep A challenges arose. Huge call volumes, huge pressures on the services, which made we had to again think laterally, think differently, innovate to navigate our way through there. Adverse weather, which I guess we've become a bit blasé to, sort of milder winters, but some of the challenges that threw up, that we successfully navigated. And again, COVID-19 came back with a bit of a vengeance, but different variants and just seasonal illnesses, and how we were able to support our acute and community colleagues as well as primary care with all those elements, and by working differently, thinking differently, and being that flexible, dynamic organisation that we are, that enabled us to move through there. And then it would only be sensible to recognise cost of living crisis that everybody's living with on a day-to-day basis, and that we were able to help with a number of schemes there, with being able to pay some bonus payments and thank you payments, and other elements that were able to help colleagues navigate through some of those challenges, which are still there, but hopefully some of the measures we were able to do took some of the pain away, especially from lower paid colleagues, which is always a challenge as to how they manage their budgets. So we certainly didn't stand still, and we hopefully did as much as we could within our limited finances to support everybody as much as possible, and continue to do so. Next slide, please. It is. So I'll hand back to Nigel now to go through the sort of formal business of the AGM and the financial performance.
Thank you, David. Before I go on to the financials, I'd just like to make sure that we've recorded from the board's perspective our huge thanks to David, the executive team, and all the staff who've actually made everything happen that David's just talked about. When you look at all those challenges that we've had to overcome, you know, the success has come through. David mentioned merging two organisations together is not easy, especially for an organisation that's not used to doing it. And it's just a huge thanks from the board for everything that we've seen. As I said, sadly, Sarah can't quite join us because of technical problems, but I'd also like to thank her for coming on board as chair from the 1st of April. And obviously at a subsequent AGM, she'll get to meet all the members, but she's also been very visible in the organisation already. And I think that's making a huge difference. So once again, David, please pass our thanks down to colleagues from the board, and obviously from this AGM as well, because I think it's really, really important. Without our staff, none of this would be possible. So to move on then, in terms of the financials, can I have the next slide, please? So David's talked about the growth of the organisation. I just want to highlight two lines on this chart. The top one, which is the blue chart, talks about our income, and you can see from 2009 our income was 5.2 million. It's now grown up to 78.5 million. On the next slide, I'll touch in terms of the basis of that, around the difference between, if we can go back to the other slide, sorry, that's it, if you stay with that one, we'll touch on how that's actually changed as a result of Devon Doctors. But probably even more importantly to the members is a question of actually what's our cash. And our cash at the end of the year was 14.2 million. And that puts us in a good position to be able to be resilient regardless of whatever the challenges have been. There was a small drop in cash year on year, simply because of the payment routine around COVID and other NHS contracts. But the reassurance that members need to take from this is that £14 million worth of cash puts us in a very, very strong and healthy position to move forward. Can I have the next slide, please? So looking now at the comparative between the 2 years, so this was last year, which you saw at the last AGM, and this year our revenue's gone up by some 20%. Of that, Devon accounts for 7.5 million, although we only had Devon for 6 months of the year, and the rest of it was around new contracts, which Huck had actually gained. So that's a 16 million pound growth effectively on the year. In terms of administration, there were some additional costs, without doubt. We were effectively running two businesses for a time. The executive and the team have slowly worked their way through that, as well as working their way through the viability of the contracts that we took on. So our admin costs have increased, but the overall surplus, which is the important number, actually has remained virtually the same. So last year it was just over 2 million. This year it's just over 1.9 million. And as I said, contextually, if you put that in the context of the merger and all the work that had to take place to make that happen, to retain our surplus is a very strong achievement. In terms of cash at bank, I've already talked about that. It did drop slightly because of those changes in contracts. These numbers are taken from statutory accounts. We're awaiting our auditor's approval on those, but we felt that it was relevant that you actually saw the financials as requested in our constitution. So I'm now going to see if there are any questions. The next slide, please. So if there are any questions, if they can come through. If not, we'll move on to the next formal item of the AGM. But I can't see any questions. Jamie, are there any questions that I should be aware of?
I'm not seeing any at the moment.
No. Okay, I can see Daniela saying no as well, so I think that's confirmation from the great team. So can we move on to the next formal item on the agenda, please, which is the approval to appoint our new auditors. Once again, we'd like you to go on to Slido to actually do this and vote. We'll allow about a minute for the votes to be counted. There's the slide there. And we are in a situation where we do need to have a procurement process for obtaining new auditors. So we do need your approval to undertake that. Clearly, that will be led by myself as chair of the Finance, Investment and Audit Committee and our finance team together with David. But we do need your specific approval. So if you'd like to vote, please, that would be very much appreciated. Well, thank you very much indeed. That's very, very reassuring. As I said, we will update you in terms of that procurement process as we undertake it. But thank you for that reassuring vote. Right, I'd now like to pass you over to Jamie to touch on governance, please. Jamie, over to you.
Thank you, Nigel. Good afternoon, everyone. So first slide, please, Daniela. Thank you. So the past year has certainly been quite exciting from a governance perspective, with several positive steps forward. Now, I know governance and exciting as words don't generally go together, but bear with me, because I will try and convince you this has been the case. So following approval at last year's annual meeting, our revised constitution was ratified and registered by the FCA. And actually, in order for that to be the case, it had to go through a very rigorous review process, which was completed. And that now ensures that we obviously hold ourselves to the required standards as outlined in the Community Benefit Societies Act. So it puts us in a good place moving forward as an organisation, and as a constitution to work to is a far better document than what we've had previously. We've also further progressed and refined our committee structures. And again, that can seem a bit dull, but actually as a process of escalation and ensuring appropriate oversight, it's a really important step forward for us. And we've also looked at our risk management processes and launched various new aspects. So we've got a new board assurance framework. We've also refined and developed a risk review group. All of our risks are now also reviewed at clinical governance meetings. So lots and lots of work around risks. And for employee members, you may have heard me on the training, or you've probably been bored of me talking about risk a lot. But it is a really, really important aspect for us. And in terms of that visibility of risk, in terms of identification and management, I think we're in a much better place now than we have been previously. We have also developed our policies and our policy management process. Again, these have been kind of scrutinised and assessed quite intensively over the past year. So as part of new licensing conditions created by NHS England, they've reviewed our basically our governance processes, our assurance processes, and were very positive in their feedback around that. And again, these processes, the new aspects that we've developed have also been tested and scrutinised as well by our CQC inspections. And again, the feedback from those has all been really, really positive. And again, echoing what others have said, it's been very much an organisational effort with lots of input from everyone and participation from everyone. So again, a really good step forward. Next slide, please. So as David has touched upon, in November last year, we launched our new independent Freedom to Speak Up service. So this is provided by an organisation called the Guardian Service. So they are an independent organisation. They actually provide whistleblowing Freedom to Speak Up processes for a large number of organisations, NHS trusts, so UCLH, BARTS, but also the BMA as well. So very much a leader in their field. And we were the first IUC provider, 111 provider, that they actually have worked with. So again, a kind of a very much a step forward in that way. And that's, I think, come with some challenges for them and for us, but definitely ones that have been, I think, increasingly overcome. And what, you know, what that's really created is certainly an independent process for this now, and as David has indicated, a process that is ingrained and is overseen at the very highest levels of the organisation. And I think as an aspect of the importance of that, we've certainly seen the need for, you know, escalation processes and effective escalation processes in that way. And the ability to raise concerns by certainly the recent Lucy Lepley case, but also going back to the mid-status inquiry and aspects like that. It is central to what we need to do as an organisation in terms of enabling and facilitating that ability to speak up, and to do that in a safe and where necessary anonymous way. And the Guardian service is certainly providing that for us now. But we're keen to further progress that, to further develop that and make it far more ingrained in the organisation as well. Next slide, please. Finally, come to the Green Plan. So the Green Plan is basically our central document, our go-to element in terms of our sustainability strategy. And how we as an organisation can be as sustainable, as green as possible, and limit our impact on the environment and on the. We've done an awful lot of work around our Green Plan. We've created a Green Clean campaign and had several Green Clean events over the course of the year, which some on this call will have assisted with. And it's very much been an organisational kind of initiative. We raised several £100s from donations of unwanted clothing, aspects like that we've put to the use of planting trees and other initiatives. We've also created measures by which we can donate aspects to food banks and recycle everything from milk bottle tops to pretty much you name it that we're kind of looking at. So another significant investment for us has also been around replacing our vehicles in our fleet. So we now use hybrid vehicles, which have made a really significant impact in our CO2 emissions from the fleet. And we're planning already now very much for 2024. And actually thinking about how we might also incorporate our membership into that and into some of those initiatives as well, because it is something that we really want to lead on as an organisation and you know, demonstrate that corporate responsibility around that, because it is, you know, very important for society as a whole, and as a community benefit society we have to recognise that. I think that's it from me. I'll hand back to David. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jamie, and a big thanks to you and the team for all that you've done to move forward with the governance agenda. It is really, really important, as you say. I think it can be dry at times, but it's absolutely essential to sort of form the skeleton of what we need to do as an organisation that then enables us to do all the sort of fun and innovative things. So we've definitely made massive progress in the last year. So in terms of looking ahead, I just wanted to touch on a couple of big things that are happening and are due to happen next calendar year that have got an impact on Hook. So the first one is that the NHS has kicked off a national review into the future of NHS 111. And it's not the future as in whether a black and white question about whether it's going to be scrapped or retained. It's more about what it's going to do in the future. We've sort of listed there some of the elements that are being considered as part of that review. So as we know, it's currently a telephone and an online element of clinical assessment, but could it do more? So we've campaigned for quite some time that 111 could be a true single point of access and replacing some of the confusing navigation points for patients and for professionals around the health service? Could it be the single point of access into general practice for same day care, etc., etc.? So that's one of the things that's definitely going to be discussed, and look at potential ambitions that would then form in specifications and requirements for commissioners. Delivery model, there's long been concerns about is delivery model correct? Is it sustainable given the wider pressures? Should there be more clinical elements to it further on? So there's a big look at that delivery model, and also the technology that sits behind that. 111 initially was set up purely as a telephony access point, and it moved to online, but as we know, with social media and AI and everything else, things are moving really fast. So it's really making sure that the model is fit for purpose and sort of is accessible and has got equity of access for everybody. Commission arrangements and the level of investment, clearly you can't have a all singing all dancing service without it being appropriately funded, and we know certainly exec colleagues live that on a daily basis, the challenge with commissioners about the activity levels and what we could do, but getting them to fund it is not always as simple as the ideas that we come up with. But commission arrangements, whether it's going to be multi ICB arrangements or whether it will stick to its current processes where each individual ICB is required to provide the service. Lots of reviews about the performance and data metrics, about what's measured, what adds value, what indicates good quality services, etc., etc. And we know that from our own experience, some of the things that we are required to report on, we don't think are fit for purpose, and the sort of world's moved on, they're out of date. So a good opportunity to look at that, and the scale of 111. So we're obviously now a national provider, and initially 111 was commissioned on in those days a CCG footprint basis, but is there something about it being a regional platform? So we would be the East of England provider or the Southwest provider, and what does that mean in terms of consistency of single provider, resilience, standardization, etc. So that's clearly one that's going to be debated. And then there's the future of the single virtual contact centre. So this is bringing together, at least as a starting point, all the different providers' telephony systems to provide one, as the name suggests, one single virtual contact centre that enables activity to flow anywhere in the country. But as Janice and team know, it's not without its challenges to make that work and to underpin the contracting and the governance that sits with that. So lots of opportunities to influence that. None of it's been decided yet. I think the first publication draft report is due in February next year, so we'll be awaiting that with eager arms. But also, the most important, we've got a voice, an opportunity to contribute towards that based on our experiences as one of the sort of largest 111 and IUC providers in the country. So hopefully we'll get a chance to influence that going forward. So the next big thing I just wanted to update about, which is outside of our control but is really important to us, is the provider selection regime. So for those of you who don't know, this is a piece of legislation that went through Parliament in October, and unless there's any further challenges to it, will become law on New Year's Day 2024. And it's really about the relaxation of the mandatory procurement requirements in the NHS for various services, of which ours fall within scope. So the purpose of it is to remove that burden from commissioners to go to open market to find suitable providers to provide services, and to focus more on how to develop partnerships and innovation, and from that develop sustainable models that offer good clinical outcomes, but also financially viable. So provider selection regime comes in, all being well, on the 1st of January. And I guess the why is it important to us is that it gives us the opportunity to work with our existing commissioners, existing partners, to retain our contracts and to have long-term sustainability, that we don't have to go to the market every 5 years to retain our contracts, that we could really start to move forward to long-term arrangements in all the areas that we've currently got, and really I guess put some roots down, so to speak, and really establish ourselves as being able to do more, especially if the scope of 111 changes as part of that national review. So within the provider selection regime, there's lots and lots of complicated rules and regulations about how commissioners can use the provider selection regime, but the element that's interesting to us is about the ability to directly award, so not going to the market. And the bit that is really, really important to us, which is where these bullet points are highlighted, is that the commissioner's ability to directly award a contract to us, or to retain an existing contract, is an evaluation of these bullet points in terms of what we currently provide. So there's a big push about the quality of the service that we provide, and that it's meeting its specification standards, that we're innovative, and that we don't stand still. Clearly there's an aspect, it's public money, so we've got to be showing good value for money, and it's not just a money pit where money pours into it, and the performance or the level of innovation, etc., is not at the standard it should be. Need to be able to demonstrate integration, collaboration, and service sustainability. And then some key elements which will be in the sort of specification criteria: how we're going to improve access, how we reduce health inequalities, and how we support choice. And then really important, which should be absolutely playing to our strengths, is about social values. So there's an evaluation document that commissioners will use, and our plan and our strategy really is that we need to be making sure that we're absolutely excelling in each of these areas, and it's really visible to commissioners and the wider system. So in effect, there is no choice but to recommission us using the direct award model, because we're in effect ticking, and in a lot of cases exceeding, the standards that are required. So going forwards, provider selection regime is really important to us, and that will really drive where we need to be and where we should be in each of these areas. So just moving forward onto next slide. So priority areas for Hook, and there's loads of priorities, but I just wanted to pick on a few. Talked many times about our workforce being our biggest asset, and probably are to 99% of organisations. And it's interesting that we obviously they're the engine room of everything we do, but lots of things are not just about, despite cost of living challenges, about how much people take home. It's about those wider things, about ensuring that our recruitment is fit for purpose, that our training is strong, the support, the culture, and development opportunities. They're all just as important, based on feedback from colleagues, as how much people take home. So real focus on those going forwards, about how we really move that in the right direction. And loads of positive things have already happened in that, but a real push towards that going forwards. Improvements in performance and quality, we know that's challenged given some of the spikes in activity that we're seeing, and some of the unforeseen things like Strep A and the impact of COVID, etc. But if you link it back to the previous slide about the performance requirements and quality of the provider selection regime, that's going to become really, really important going forwards if we're going to retain and win new contracts. So a big push to drive that forward in the right areas, and really be able to provide evidence of where we are hitting those targets, and the quality and the impact that we do from our services. Digital, loads and loads of reasons why we need to prioritise digital across the organisation. It's the glue in some ways that holds everything together. It's the bits that makes communication possible. It's the elements that allow information to flow and keeps us as efficient as possible. So a real push on standardising platforms, resilience, so that things are as strong as they possibly can be, and also that we know that technology changes almost on a daily basis, so harnessing that to make sure that we use it to make ourselves sustainable. And I guess it's a segue into the next bullet point about innovation and transformation, that we don't stand still. We've got a great track record on being an innovative and dynamic organisation, and lots of examples of that we spoke about earlier, of what we've achieved in the last 12 months. But in effect, more of the same, and if not even more, in terms of how we move things forward, different delivery solutions, use of technology, looking at ways of doing things differently, different functionality out of systems, etc., etc. So a real drive for that. And then linking back to Nigel's section on the annual accounts and our finances, is to really make sure that our financial governance is as strong as it possibly can be, and that we can visibly see where every single penny is being spent and where it's been invested in the organisation, and how we get visibility that all our financial governance aspects are as strong as they possibly can be. So they're just sort of 5 areas of priority, and I think on the next slide we break some of those down and sort of the exciting things that we'll be doing next year. So again, this is just a selection of headlines, and I won't go through them line by line, but you can see that the principle of them really is about long-term future, and you see there's quite a big thing there about new contact centres, expansion of contact centres, especially in the southwest, where we're going to take the entire building in Taunton to grow our southwest footprint, and a real sort of commitment, hopefully, to any members on this meeting that are from the southwest, about that they're not the poor relation, that we very much intend that Hook has a bigger and deeper footprint in the southwest. So big thing about estates there. Mentioned on the previous slide about the importance of the digital aspects, and one of the side effects, if you like, of 2 organisations coming together is that you end up with 2 of everything from a systems perspective. So there's a big programme about rationalisation of those systems, taking the good from both organisations to create a super good system. And some of the key aspects there, looking at Rotamaster, the HR payroll system, and also the fact we've got 2 separate Adastra platforms, and how can we use those as efficiently as possible. And then the last 2 really around the governance. So the patient safety incident response framework has been launched, but there's more and more to do with that replaces how we manage and learn from serious incidents, which regrettably do happen in the NHS. It's I guess an occupational hazard, that it's not a perfect environment. So a big push on how we integrate and implement the new standards, and it is completely different to the current arrangements there. And then in some ways this is a blessing and a curse, that because of our scale and the amount of one-on-one services that we provide, we've been promoted from being a level 3 organisation in terms of the data security toolkit to a level 1, which means we've got to do a hell of a lot more to prove our governance and to really show the resilience against cyber attacks and the security and how we manage data. So it's a lot of work to do, but it goes back to Jamie's points about the governance, that it will make us a much stronger, deeper, more secure organisation. So it's a lot of work to get over the line, but the benefits from it in terms of the organisation's sustainability and going forwards is really really positive. So those are big projects that we're working on during the course of this calendar year, and have already started and into next calendar year. So hopefully you'll agree that those are quite exciting, and I guess we've continued on from this year with expansion, growth, developments, and but not forgetting the need to standardise and invest in our workforce and governance. That is the backbone of everything. Is that the last slide? Okay. Well, just before we move on to questions, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody in the organisation. Really, exec colleagues have literally worked their socks off and tirelessly with the challenges that have come from day-to-day operational elements, but also the merger of Devon Doctors, growth of the organisation, CQC. So a big thank you to Sarah, Savanthi and Janice for their support, also to Ned colleagues for their insight, support, sage comments, etc., etc. But the biggest thank you to everybody else, really, who are the heroes on a day-to-day basis of making the organisation what it is. And it's a real privilege to be chief exec of Hook. And people always say about the job, and I say it's the best job in the world to lead Hook, in terms of just the pride that you can see in people's work and the culture, and just their willingness to go over and above to support their colleagues and support patients. So a big thank you to everybody for the last year. I know we've got Christmas coming up and we've got winter pressures, so good luck to everybody for the Christmas period, and I'm sure that that team spirit and that can-do attitude will safely steer us forward over that busy period. And we can see that looking forward, there's some really positive light at the end of the tunnel as to what we can achieve and where we're going as an organisation. So hopefully this time next year, when we're having the AGM, we'll be able to report back on some even more brilliant successes as an organisation. So I will leave it there, and I'll hand back to Nigel, I think.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much indeed. So now's the opportunity for anybody who's got questions. They can come through the question chat, and I think Jamie and Daniela will look out for questions for us. Please don't be afraid to ask us questions. That's what we're all here for. How are we doing, Jamie and Daniela? Any questions so far? No, nothing. Give it a couple more minutes. Right, well, I don't see any questions, which I hope is good news. Certainly, hopefully you've enjoyed the last hour's presentation from both David and myself. Once again, apologies from Sarah for the slight technical fault that she wasn't able to join us. But I'd just like to wish everybody compliments of the season, really. You know, we are moving into that Christmas and other festivity times, as well as New Year. And once again, a huge thanks to the staff for everything that they've achieved, and also for Daniela.
Nigel,
yes.
Sorry, got a question now.
Oh, excellent. Good. Well, I'll shut up then. Daniela, thank you. What's the question, please?
Second. From Sean Lingham, with inflation very high currently, benefits going up by 6.7% in April 2024 and pensions going up by 8.5%, will the remuneration committee be looking at pay rises in line with these?
Okay. I don't know if we've still got Tracy, just looking around. And otherwise, I'll speak on her behalf.
I think Tracy's left.
I think Tracy's left. Yeah, absolutely. We'll certainly review the affordability of what we can achieve within the settlements that we make with the NHS contracts. So we obviously have to balance off the changes in any revenue that we get through those NHS contracts through in terms of our affordability. David already talked about some of the extra things that we were able to achieve or do in 2023 to actually help our colleagues. We're very much aware of the cost of living crisis, and that affects a lot of our staff who are on relatively low income levels. So we bear it very much in mind, but we do need to make sure that we can afford that in terms of the additional income and revenue that comes through the contracts that we have. And, you know, being effectively part of that NHS world, that is a world that's very, very challenged from a revenue perspective. But you are very much in our thoughts in terms of how we take that through. And I know, as I said, Tracy's unfortunately had to leave, but she will be leading that discussion together with Deirdre from our HR team. Any other questions, Daniela? Okay, well, I'll just finish off my wrap up then, basically, and to wish everybody a happy new year. And once again, a huge thanks to Jamie, Daniela, the comms team for pulling all of this together. It's never easy, it's always stressful. And I think the meeting's gone very, very well. So once again, members, thank you for finding the time to join. And I'm going to wish you a good afternoon. Thank you very much indeed. Bye.